What's up, everybody? I'm James Withy, and today I'm going to talk about 5 of my favorite color realism tattoo artists. Okay, so today I'm going to start a new series of videos where basically what I want to do is make videos about a bunch of different tattoo styles and choose 5 of my favorite artists that practice those respective styles and show you their work and talk a little bit about the type of tattoos that they do. The reason I think this series of videos is important is because I believe that if you are a serious tattoo collector, it's probably a good idea to view as much tattoo imagery as possible. That way you are expanding what I call your visual vocabulary. And essentially what that means is that you have a wider variety of images that you can kind of sample from when you're thinking about what a good tattoo is or a bad tattoo is, or an example of like a particular tattoo style or something like that. It's better to view as many tattoo images on social media and see as many tattoos in person as you possibly can. That way you kind of develop your palette, so to speak, in terms of being able to distinguish between different styles and also have like that range of what a bad tattoo is and what like the very best of the best, like the top tattoos in the world are. That way you can kind of decide for yourself, where your preference sits as far as like what you would like to get on your body, like, the look of it visually, and also try to estimate like, okay, well, what can I afford budget wise in terms of like the best tattoo I can possibly get. A really great example of why that matters would be like celebrity tattoos. So we've all seen celebrities like Post Malone or like Lil Wayne or Justin Bieber or somebody like that have an unlimited amount of financial resources, and they have, probably a whole bunch of personal assistants and helpers that can do the research for them in terms of figuring out which tattoo artist to go to, but they still end up with bad tattoos. And my suspicion is that doesn't have anything to do with them not having enough money, obviously, to pay for the tattoos. It's just that they don't know what the difference between a good tattoo and a bad tattoo is, because it's very possible they've never been visually exposed to some of the people that are at the top of their game as far as their respective styles of tattooing. So my hopes with this video is that it kind of serves as a starting point for people that are interested in the color realism style, so that they can kind of see like what's out there in terms of, like I said, the best of the best as far as people that do this style, and then maybe just use that as a starting point to kind of branch out from there and maybe discover new artists that they really like the look of their tattoos and maybe even want to collect from in the future. Oh, let me just stretch it out a little bit. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. The first artist that I want to talk about today is going to be, who am I going to talk about first? Nico Hurtado. So there was a small part of me that considered not putting Nico Hurtado on this list, and it's not because he doesn't deserve to be on it, but it's because I figured maybe a lot of the people that subscribe to me on here would already be aware of who he is and already be following him on Instagram or whatever, and that maybe they would get more value out of me mentioning somebody that they're less likely to already know about. But fuck that, man. Like, Nico is definitely one of the very best in the world at color realism, and in my opinion, maybe #1 at doing color portraits. Not only because his execution is flawless and he has like a really airbrush, like hella smooth looking feel to his tattoos that's insanely hard to achieve, but also because his catalog of work is just like monumental. Like, it's fucking, he's done like every single cool movie character or like pop culture reference out there, and he has like absolutely murdered it. So, when it comes to like the standard, as far as how high the bar is on any particular like idea, like movie idea or like pop culture reference or something like that, you can thumb through his shit and find like, okay, well, that's the best Mike Tyson that's ever been done or whatever, and you can be pretty sure in saying that if you see it on his page. It's probably the dopest one out there. So like I said, Nico Hurtado is probably somebody that a lot of you guys are already aware of because he is very famous and he is a household name in tattooing. Part of that might have to do with the fact that he was on LA Inc. way back in the day. I think he was on there with Kat Von D, which I don't know if I've ever seen him on the show or whatever, because I didn't really watch that one. I just watched Miami Inc. before that. But I think he would have been hella famous even if he was never on TV whatsoever, because like he is really, really great at tattooing, and he's a really great person. Like, I've had the honor of meeting this dude and taking a seminar with him for a couple of hours. You know, got to ask him some questions about tattooing, and the information that I learned, the stuff that I learned in that seminar, definitely changed the way that I approach color realism tattooing forever. So definitely really appreciative of the fact that he's willing to educate other people, and he's just a really nice, like, down-to-earth, humble dude. And yeah, I feel like he's a really great ambassador for tattooing in general. So if you guys don't follow Nico, go ahead and look him up on Instagram, check his stuff out, and you definitely won't be disappointed. Okay, so the next person I'm going to talk about is a guy named Poach. Now, I don't think Poach is his real name. I think that his real name is Edward Best or something like that. He puts it underneath like his link to his website, like poachtattoos.com. He puts his real name underneath some of his stuff in his photos on Instagram. But yeah, he's a really great tattooer. I feel like he is one of the only others that I see really like achieving that super buttery smooth, like airbrushed look in his color realism the way that Nico does. And like I said, that is very, very hard to do, and that's one of the reasons why I put him on this list. But another reason why I put him on this list is because I feel like he is really great at using the right color choices that kind of match his subject matter, if that makes any sense. So like Poach does a lot of color portraits, he does a lot of like animal portraits and a lot of nature stuff, and I feel like when he does, I don't know, like a portrait of a little girl or like a baby or something, or like a cute little doggo or something like that, he really does a great job of choosing a palette that has like more subdued tones or like neutrals and shit that kind of match the subject matter and soften up the subject matter solely through his color choices. So it almost gives like a level of finesse to his tattoos that I feel like some other artists lack when they just want everything just to be like really, really bold, in your face, kind of popping, so to speak, as a tattoo or whatever. I feel like sometimes that shit can cheesy it up for me, and Poach really doesn't make that mistake at all with his color choices, and they seem to be really well thought out. And you know, not only that, but he's a really great color pencil artist as well. So if you look at some of the fine art stuff that he does, his feed is just, this dude is just working all the time. Like, his fucking feed is full of amazing color pencil drawings and artwork outside of tattooing, which, you know, that's not to say any of the other people on this list aren't doing that. But definitely when it comes to color pencils in particular, this dude is he's capable of producing work that probably would be on like a world scale, and he would probably be a very successful color pencil artist even if he didn't tattoo at all. He could probably sell his color pencil drawings for a very large sum of money, and I'm sure that he does. So yeah, I've actually had the pleasure of meeting Poach once, although I'm not sure if the impression I made was really that great. I was doing a tattoo convention, I think in Phoenix, and hung out with him and a dude named Roman Abrego, and we all went and got dinner at, like, I don't know, Cheesecake Factory or some shit after the show. And it was like a long ass table full of people, and I kind of feel bad in hindsight because I didn't know who Poach was or what he looked like. I just fucking already followed him on Instagram and knew what his tattoos were and shit, but I didn't know that was him sitting way on the other side of the table. And not only that, but I was a little litty. Like, I was pretty fucking drunk when I was over there hanging out with them. And I feel like everybody on my side of the table was. Like, we were all fucking just turned up to a whole nother wavelength that maybe the people on the other side of the table weren't. And yeah, I just really hope that one day I get to meet Poach again and talk to him like a normal person and get to know him a little bit. So we'll see if that happens. Okay, so this next person I'm going to talk about is one of my favorite tattoo artists, period. Not just in the style of color realism, but just in tattooing in general. And this person's name is Dimitri Samohim. Now, I really hope that I'm pronouncing that right because he's from somewhere in Eastern Europe. I think he's from Poland or something like that. And his name is kind of complicated it's spelled in a way that is difficult to figure out how to pronounce it, at least for me. And I really hope that I'm not butchering that, but I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, Dimitri Samohim. Now, what is special about this artist, like I said, is that he can do a really wide variety of different tattoo styles at a super, super high level. So this guy can do black and gray realism, black and gray surrealism, color fucking portraiture, color realism. He can do new school, he can do neo-traditional, like he can do pretty much every major tattoo style he's very, very good at. And I really wish that he would post more still pictures on his Instagram for me to like yoink the photos of and put them in this video, or I wish he would have done that. But he posts a lot of videos because he does like really large scale work, and oftentimes it wraps around and warps a lot and it's hard to view with just a photo. But yeah, probably what stands out the most about the way he does color realism is it looks very, very like almost painterly and chunky, to where in art we kind of call that like an expressive look, to where we're kind of like bending the rules a little bit in terms of trying to get everything to be super, super tight and like very, very highly rendered. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, because his shit really is highly rendered too. It's just a different kind of a little bit more of a chunky look, like I said. But it very much looks like a painting, and his level of saturation is super high, to where you can tell looking at his tattoos, photographs and videos of them, that because the saturation is so high, meaning there is a very large amount of pigment in the skin, you can tell that these color realism tattoos are going to age very, very well as the years pass, because the more pigment that's in the skin, the less the tattoo fades as the years go by. Because obviously, you know, when a tattoo fades or whatever, it's because your body is kind of eliminating pigment particles naturally through your system. And if there's more to start with, then it's going to take a much longer time for those to fade to the point where it's noticeable and detectable by the human eye. So he has a really large amount of saturation. He has that really unique, chunky, expressive looking style to his color realism, and he's super versatile. And that's why he's one of my very favorite tattoo artists out there. So if you guys aren't aware of who this person is, definitely check out his Instagram. And there's a lot of variety on there. There's a lot of cool shit to look at in terms of tattoos and also paintings as well. You know, I probably should have mentioned on Nico's that he's a really fantastic oil painter as well, but Dimitri is also that. Like, he's good at doing all kinds of shit in oil painting, from figurative works to highly illustrative, like almost Japanese themed oni masks and all that kind of stuff. Like, this dude paints a lot of cool shit, and he does like large scale, really awesome acrylic or oil paintings. So check his stuff out, you won't be disappointed. Okay, so the next person I'm gonna talk about is a guy named Phil Garcia. Now, Phil is a bona fide legend in the tattoo community. And what I mean by that is, like, this guy can walk into a convention and literally every tattoo artist there knows who he is and is familiar with his work. Now, Phil does a pretty good variety of subject matter, but I think where he really shines is doing stuff that is very highly detailed, nature related stuff. So like landscape shit, for instance. If you look through his Instagram, some of these wave tattoos that are in there are like fucking unbelievable as far as how good they are. And in my opinion, like, they kind of, when I first started seeing him bust these type of tattoos out, they changed my definition of what a good sunset tattoo looks like. Because some of them I have like a horizon with a wave and shit, and like a little sunset in the background. And his color choices and value choices are insane on those. So not only that, but he's really, really good at flowers. Like, as far as floral subject matter, I'd be hard pressed to find anybody that comes even close to him in terms of their level of clarity and their body of work. So roses in particular, I feel like Phil Garcia is probably #1 in the world at doing color realistic roses. And I feel like if you ask 20 tattoo artists that question, who's the best at doing color roses in the entire world, probably like 15 to 18 of them, or maybe even all 20 of them, are gonna say Phil Garcia, because he is that good. So, you know, I've been lucky enough to meet this guy a couple of times. Really laid back guy, super nice. And he's also tattooed my girlfriend. I think they're like 3 or 4 sessions into doing her sleeve right now. And she is really, really happy with the way the tattoos are coming out. And like I said, I've been lucky enough to talk to him a couple of times and have some conversations, very short ones, asking him things about the way he does color realism. And he's another one of those people that after talking to him, I changed the way that I tattoo color realism for the better and forever. He told me that basically I needed to slow down and take my time a little bit more. That most of the people that ask him how they can improve their color realism or whatever, like, that's what he tells them, because he sees people kind of rushing through this stuff. And when I got home, I started thinking about that, and I had a big color realism piece coming up, which I think I showed in my last video. It was the Wolverine fighting Magneto. And that one's probably the best one that I've done so far in color realism. And I started that piece right after having that conversation with Phil. So Phil, if you ever watch this, which is unlikely, thank you for telling me about that, because it definitely helped me up my game quite a bit, just sitting back and focusing a little bit more on making it the best it can be, rather than trying to complete everything all the time in one session, just blasting it out, you know? Okay, so the next person I'm gonna talk about before I wrap this video up is somebody named Valentina Riabova. So same thing applies as it did with Dimitri, where I really don't know whether or not I'm butchering her name. If I am, I apologize. But I believe she is from St. Petersburg, Russia, and it is one of those names that I've never heard before, so I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So as far as the way her tattoos look, like, she is a really, really amazing tattoo artist. And I feel like hers really don't look quite the same as anybody else that I've talked about in this video, where if Nico and Poach are very, very buttery smooth with their tattoos, and if Phil is very, very clear and sharp with his tattoos, and if Dimitri is very detailed but chunky with his tattoos, Val has a little bit more of a mixture of all of them, to where it almost looks like an oil painting to me. It is expressive, and it definitely has like some sfumato in it, like some variation in how sharp and how hazy some things can look. And she definitely uses like sharpness and contrast selectively, so that she makes you pay attention to a certain part of the portrait or whatever the subject matter is that she's doing. And I feel like the way her tattoos look make it really obvious that she is very well versed in classical fine art. She's probably very, very highly classically trained. And if you look through her feed, it's very evident that that is true, because she's always practicing different artistic media, charcoal, life drawing, oil painting. She does sculpting. She does pretty much everything that has to do with classical artwork that's figurative. She's very good at. And the way that she tattoos definitely reflects that, because it has a lot of the same principles to me. When I view it, I see a lot of the same palette choices that would be seen in classical paintings. I see a lot of the same artistic principles, like, you know, atmospheric perspective and that sfumato and all that different stuff. And it really does look like a painting, even in her time lapses, when she's like shows the way that she throws in big chunks of color and then refines them afterwards and builds on them and layers them from there. And I think she's a really important person for the tattoo industry, because she is a really great example of the connection between classical fine art and tattoo art. Because there are a lot of people out there, a lot of tattooers that are aspiring tattooers out there, that believe that tattooing is just its own thing, and that watercolor, charcoal, graphite, oil painting, whatever, those are all their own things, and that they really aren't related that in that important of a way. And that's not true. I feel like, personally, I believe that everything in art conceptually is cumulative. So if I practice watercolor, it makes me better at tattooing. If I practice tattooing, it makes me better at oil painting. If I practice oil painting, it makes me better at charcoal, whatever, right? And vice versa. All these different things, they're all related. And I'm just taking a guess with this. I'm not like 100% positive, but from the stuff that she posts in her feed with all the different classical fine art that she practices, and with some of the things that she does in tattooing, I very heavily suspect that she was already good at these other artistic media and at doing like classical figurative art before she even got into tattooing. And that seems very evident in the trajectory of her career with how fast she got good, because she's only been tattooing, I think, like 6 years now, and she's already one of the very best in the world, which is a great testament to the amount of intellect and talent she has. But it's also a great example for other aspiring tattoo artists out there, that if you want to get good at this shit fast, that's the way you do it, is you get good at the classical fine art stuff and you focus on that as well as tattooing. So she has changed a lot of things in the industry in terms of the way people apply color realistic tattoos. Most people that do color realism, including myself, we use a method where we put all of our dark tones in, like our blacks and stuff like that first, and establish edges. And then we build our mid-tones, and then we put highlights on top of all that stuff at the end, our lightest tones. But Val almost tattoos the opposite, where she puts a lot of the lighter tones in first and some of the mid-tones and some of the blacks in last. Now, she has educational material that explains how she does this process, and I haven't checked it out yet, although one day I probably will. But this is something in the tattoo community that was previously thought to be the wrong way to do it, and she's out here just murdering shit and doing it in a way that a lot of people don't understand. So she's definitely shaken the game up in that sense. And I think a lot of that came from the way that she paints. She's just translating it directly over to tattooing. But she's also shooken the game up in one other way that I think is pretty significant, where a couple years back or a few years back, I was scrolling through her shit and I realized that she actually can do color portrait tattoos from life. So she'll literally sit there like at a fucking convention or something and have a model sitting across from her that she's looking at, and she'll just Sharpie on to like the surface of the skin or whatever, a basic drawing of the person that she's gonna tattoo, and then she'll do the entire tattoo just by looking at a fucking person that's sitting across rather than looking at a photographic reference. Now, this was especially impressive to me because at the time I was really into life drawing. I was drawing a lot of nude models in school. I was doing like artistic anatomy classes, learning osteology, myology, all the muscles and bones in the human body. You know, we're fucking dissecting cadavers and all that different shit. And to see somebody that was doing that in tattooing at a time when I was really focusing on like the purest aspect of drawing from life rather than photos and stuff was really impressive. So to my knowledge, she's the only person that has ever successfully attempted that and done like really high level tattoos. And that is a total game changer right there. Now, whether or not it is economical as far as how much time it takes to do that drawing instead of just doing a stencil of a photograph off of a person, that's debatable. But to be able to say that your tattoo was tattooed from life rather than from photographic reference, I think that is probably a reason in and of itself to get a tattoo with that sort of process from her. But yeah, she is an amazing tattoo artist, and if you want to check her work out, her handle on Instagram is val_tatboom, and I believe she has, like I mentioned earlier, she does some educational material. I think it's mostly geared towards tattoo artists, but there's a link to that on her main Instagram page, and I think she might even have a YouTube channel at this point. I haven't checked it out. I don't know what it's about, but if I judge based on anything she's done in the past, it's probably going to be something that is worth checking out. So yeah, that's about it for today's video. The reason, like I said, that I made this is because I feel like it is important for you guys to expand your horizons as far as like which tattoo artists are good out there that you should be aware of, so you can kind of use them as like a baseline measuring point for like, okay, well, what is a really, really great, phenomenal tattoo compared to just an average tattoo? And that's important for tattoo collectors for sure. I'm gonna put links to everybody's Instagrams that I talked about in this video in the description. So just go ahead and pop down there and check it out. If you guys wanna check out pictures of my color realism tattoos, which is one of the styles that I do enjoy doing the most, then there's also a link to my Instagram down in the description. But yeah, if you guys end up following some of these people that I talked about in this video, or end up following me, a really great way to kind of branch out and expand from there is like, go check these people out that I just talked about and then look at who they are following on Instagram, and then you're gonna find a bunch of other really great tattoo artists, and it's likely that those artists are gonna be doing a similar style to what they're doing. Because what I've noticed is that people that do a certain style and are really, really great at it, a lot of them know each other. And they meet each other at conventions, expos, whatever, and they follow a lot of similar people that have similar looking artwork. So if you want to look at a really great color realism artist's page and see who they're following, a lot of times in there you're going to find little breadcrumb trails out to other color realism artists that are also amazing at it. And that's how I kind of started compiling the list of people that I follow on Instagram, because my entire feed is just pictures of tattoos and people that I know, you know what I'm saying? So looking at like those pictures of tattoos every single day helps me to study other people's tattoos to try to figure out how I'm going to make mine better. And it also does, like I said earlier, what it does is it exposes me to a larger amount of tattoo imagery that's good, so that I kind of refine my palette and start constantly reinventing my archetype, my prototype in my mind of what a good tattoo is or what's possible in tattooing. So hopefully it was beneficial to you guys. If it was, go ahead and drop a like below. And if you guys are new to the channel and you like educational tattoo content, then please consider subscribing. But in any case, I thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day.